Dark Elf's Chosen, Season 2, Episode 4 by Celeste King.
Previously on Dark Elf's Chosen.
Have you seen a tall dark elf, red eyes like fire?
And what happens if we don't find this artifact?
Why are you helping me?
Why did you sell us out to those minotaurs?
She's dying. We have to help her now.
Jump back into the story as Julius and Savannah continue their journey.
And to get your hands on the unabridged content that YouTube won't allow us to post, find the full first and second seasons of Dark Elf's Chosen on worldsofprothika.com.
That's right. Countless hours of me telling you all the naughty details.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off any digital product on the site, including audiobooks, ebooks, and bundles.
Please show your support by liking this video or leaving us feedback in the comments section. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for notifications on our daily releases.
Thank you for choosing Celeste King's Season 2 of Dark Elf's Chosen. Chapter 22. Savannah. I'm milling around this busy little town looking for any answers I may be given. The thought of being all alone in a strange place, unsure of who your ally may be, is really escalating my anxiety. I've gotten no closer to finding out any information on Julius's condition, or even his whereabouts. I'm not even sure if he is alive, but at this point there's not much else I can do, besides try and see if anyone else has seen or heard from him. Please, have you seen a tall dark elf, red eyes like fire? My voice trembles as I grab the sleeve of a passing merchant. He shakes his head and pulls away, muttering about crazy humans. The crowd surges around me, jostling my shoulders and making my heart race. I stand out here like a misplaced puzzle piece in this chaotic picture. A human, of course, in tattered clothes, dirty from walking around trying to locate civilization, is a rarity to see. An elderly woman hunched over a basket of herbs catches my eye. She looks kind enough. "Ma'am, please, have you seen a dark elf? Black hair, red eyes, fire tattoo on his hands?" She squints at me through milky eyes and shakes her head slowly. No elves around here today. Desperation claws at my chest. I push forward through the crowd, each step heavier than the last. Every face blurs together in my frantic search. My magic buzzes beneath my skin, itching to break free, but I force it down. My hands shake as I clutch the fabric of my dress. The noise of the market fades into a dull roar in my ears. What if he's not even alive? What if... A rough hand grabs my arm, pulling me toward an alleyway. "You shouldn't be wandering alone, young lady," a gruff voice warns. I twist out of his grasp, panic flaring in my chest. "Let me go!" I take off in the opposite direction of the man. I eventually stumble back into the throng of people, my breath coming in shallow gasps. Every second that passes without finding Julius feels like an eternity stretching out before me. I need some reprieve. I need time away from the hustle and bustle of town so I can have a moment to think clearly and strategize. Across the street, I spot a dilapidated little building with warm lights glowing from the inside. From the look of it, it doesn't look like a place that is frequently visited by patrons, so it offers the perfect refuge for me to gather my thoughts. I push open the heavy wooden door of the tavern, my heart pounding. The room is dimly lit, the air thick with the smell of ale and unwashed bodies. Conversations buzz around me, a tangled web of voices I can barely distinguish. "Excuse me," I murmur, squeezing past a group of rowdy men at the bar. They barely glance at me, too engrossed in their own revelry. My eyes dart around, searching for anyone who might have seen Julius. A woman in a tattered cloak speaks in hushed tones to a bearded man, their faces shadowed by flickering candlelight. "Saw an elf near the docks." My breath catches. "Did you say you saw a dark elf?" I step closer, my voice trembling. The woman looks up, her eyes narrowing. "Who's asking?" "Please," I beg. "He's got red eyes, tattoos." The bearded man cuts me off with a dismissive wave. "Ain't seen no elf like that. Move along. I swallow my disappointment and move deeper into the tavern. My shoulders slump as I continue to weave through the crowded room. Each dead end tightens the knot of fear in my stomach. What if he's gone? What if I never find him? A sudden chill prickles my skin. I look up and lock eyes with a human woman sitting alone in the shadows. Odd. Her gaze is intense, almost predatory, but there's something charismatic about her that makes it hard to look away. She raises an eyebrow and gestures for me to come closer. With no other leads, I find myself walking toward her table. Looking for someone? Her voice is smooth, almost musical. Yes, I say cautiously. Have you seen? I might have, she interrupts with a sly smile. But information comes at a price. Desperation claws at me. Please, I'll do anything. She leans back in her chair, studying me with those piercing eyes. Then let's talk business. Before I can respond, the woman stands and nods toward a darker corner of the tavern. Follow me. I hesitate, but then trail after her, my heart pounding in my chest. She leads me to a quieter corner, where a broad-shouldered half-orc sits nursing a tankard of ale. His rough exterior is at odds with the gentle way he cradles the mug in his massive hands. I'm Elysia, and this is Lyle, she says, motioning to the half-orc. My mate. Lyle looks up, his dark eyes meeting mine with a surprising warmth. Elysia told me you're looking for someone, he says in a deep voice that rumbles like distant thunder. Yes, I manage to say, still feeling a bit out of my depth. His name is Julius. He's tall, dark grey skin, red eyes. Lyle nods slowly. I think we might have seen him. Hope flares in my chest. Where? When? Wait, is this a setup? Elysia steps closer, her presence commanding my attention. We can help you find him, she says softly. But first, tell us why you're looking for him alone. I swallow hard, unsure how much to reveal. I was travelling with him, but then we got separated. Lyle's expression softens further, and he gestures for me to sit at their table. Sounds like you care about him a lot. I nod, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. More than anything. Elysia exchanges a glance with Lyle before turning back to me. We'll help you, she promises. But you have to trust us. I know you don't have much of a reason to, but you must. What have I got to lose? I say more to myself than to anyone else. I take a deep breath and sit down. All my red flags are firing at me in warning, yet somehow I'm feeling an odd sense of relief. For the first time since Julius disappeared, at least I don't feel completely alone. Lyle reaches across the table and places a reassuring hand on mine. Despite his intimidating size, his touch is gentle and comforting. We'll start by retracing our steps from earlier today, he suggests. See if we can pick up any clues. Thank you, I whisper, gratitude swelling in my chest. Elysia smiles warmly at me before turning to Lyle. Ready? He nods and rises from the table, with surprising grace for someone his size. Together, we make our way out of the tavern and into the bustling streets once more. We weave through the crowded marketplace, my heart pounding with a mix of hope and anxiety. Lyle's large frame parts the sea of people like a ship's prow, and Elysia's confident stride reassures me. As we pass a stall filled with exotic spices, a petite woman with light brown hair and striking grey eyes steps in front of us. Her presence is commanding despite her small stature, and she regards us with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Elysia, she greets, her voice steady and clear. Mara, Elysia responds warmly. This is Savannah. She's looking for her mate. Mara's eyes lock onto mine, and I feel an odd sensation, as if she's peeling back layers to see something hidden beneath my skin. Her gaze lingers longer than feels comfortable, but she says nothing about it. I'm Mara. She introduces herself to me, extending a hand. Her grip is firm, almost testing. I know these streets well. I can help you. I look back to Lyle for some acceptance that Mara can be trusted, and he merely nods his head yes and remains quiet. Thank you, I say, relieved to have another ally in this daunting search. We exit the tavern and move together through the market, Mara leading the way with an unerring sense of direction. She doesn't speak much, but her sharp eyes miss nothing. Several times, I catch her glancing at me with an intensity that makes me uneasy. Have you been here long? I ask to break the silence. A while, Mara replies curtly, not offering any details. Alicia seems to notice my discomfort and falls back to walk beside me. Mara's got a knack for finding things, and people, she whispers reassuringly. As we pass by a row of merchants selling colourful fabrics, Mara suddenly stops and tilts her head slightly, as if listening to something only she can hear. Her eyes narrow as they flick over the crowd. Over there, she says finally, pointing towards a narrow alleyway. Someone might have seen him. We follow her lead, threading through the throng until we reach the alley's mouth. The shadows here seem deeper, more oppressive than out in the open market. Mara turns to me once more before we enter. Stay close, she advises. There's an edge to her voice that sends a shiver down my spine. I walk close to Lyle as we step into the dim alleyway, hoping against hope that this will lead us closer to finding Julius. For now, it's all I can do. Keep moving forward and trust these strangers who have chosen to help me in my darkest hour. We pause at the mouth of the alley, shadows creeping up like tendrils eager to pull us in. Mara glances back at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of caution and determination. We should travel together from here on out, she says, breaking the silence. It's safer in numbers. I hesitate, the weight of distrust heavy on my shoulders. I don't know these people, but their help has been invaluable so far. And right now, I have little choice. Agreed, Lyle adds, his deep voice carrying a note of finality. We'll cover more ground and keep an eye out for each other. Elysia's gaze meets mine, warm but firm. You can trust us, Savannah. I nod reluctantly, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. All right, let's do this. Mara leads the way into the alley, her movements sure and confident despite the oppressive darkness. The rest of us follow close behind, our footsteps echoing softly off the narrow walls. Why are you helping me? I ask quietly, unable to shake my wariness. Lyle glances over his shoulder at me. Because it's the right thing to do, and because we've all been in your shoes at some point. Elysia nods in agreement. We know what it's like to be desperate and alone.
Chapter 23. Julius. My eyes flutter open, the darkness pressing in from all sides. The air feels damp and heavy, with the familiar scent of wet earth filling my nostrils. I'm still in this hellhole. I try to move, but my limbs feel like they are weighed down by rocks. You're awake, Rastin's voice rumbles nearby, a mix of relief and worry. His red fur is dimly illuminated by a flickering torch on the wall. I attempt to sit up, but manage only a feeble twitch. Rest, Rastin says, his large hand pressing gently against my chest. You need to save your strength. His voice slices across my mind, not helping with the ache. The memories of the betrayal flood back. Rastin selling us out, Savannah's panic-stricken face, the explosion. Need my strength, I scoff. For what? We're stuck here. Rastin's green eyes meet mine, unwavering. I told you. Save it, I cut him off. You've been dodging the truth since we met. What's your game, Rastin? Why did you sell us out to those minotaurs? He leans back, exhaling heavily. It was for your benefit, he shouts. I struggle to sit up, the effort sending waves of pain through my limbs. Don't give me that honor-bound nonsense. I want real answers. His gaze shifts away for a moment, then returns with steely resolve. "There's an artifact in Miltar," he says slowly. "It can restore your magic." "An artifact?" I echo, suspicion deepening. "Yes," Razdan continues, voice low and steady. "The binding band of Aurelia. It's an ancient relic forged by one of our greatest blacksmiths." "And you expect me to believe this will solve everything?" My tone drips with sarcasm. Razdan's eyes flash with a mix of frustration and determination. "I wouldn't have brought you here if I wasn't certain." My mind races as I try to piece together his motives. "So this is about your redemption," I say finally. His expression hardens, but he doesn't deny it. "It's about saving you, and maybe earning back my place in Miltar." The weight of his words hangs heavy in the damp air. I close my eyes for a moment, trying to process everything. "And Savannah?" I ask quietly. Razdan's silence stretches out again before he speaks. "Finding the artifact is our best chance at helping both of you." His words offer little comfort, but I nod, resigned for now. The anger simmers beneath the surface, ready to erupt at any moment. "Fine," I say through gritted teeth. "But if you're lying—" "I'm not," Razdan interrupts, his voice firm and unyielding. My eyes snap open again, the damp air thickening with my rising suspicion. "Why should I believe you?" I rasp. "You've already betrayed us once." Razdan's green eyes harden, his jaw setting. "You think I wanted to betray you? I did what I had to do for us to survive." "Survival," I scoff. Convenient excuse. "You don't understand," Razdan insists, leaning closer. "This isn't just about you or me. It's about Savannah, too." I glare at him, the anger bubbling beneath my exhaustion. "You expect me to trust you after everything?" He meets my gaze without flinching. "Yes, because our survival depends on it." "Our survival?" I echo, voice dripping with skepticism. Razdan nods, his expression grave. "The Minotaur won't stop hunting us. We need each other to escape this place and find the artifact." "And why would you care about helping me?" I ask, narrowing my eyes. "Because if we don't work together, neither of us stands a chance," he replies, voice steady. I close my eyes for a moment, considering his words. The weight of my own weakness presses down on me, mingling with the uncertainty of our situation. The silence stretches between us, heavy and fraught with unspoken tension. I want to rail against him, to lash out at the betrayal and pain. But as much as I hate it, he's right. Alone, we're both doomed. "Fine," I mutter through gritted teeth. "We'll work together." Razdan's shoulders relax ever so slightly, a hint of relief in his eyes. "Good," he says quietly. "Now rest. We'll need all our strength for what's ahead." I lay back down, exhaustion pulling at me once more. As much as it galls me to admit it, trusting Razdan might be our only shot at survival. For now, I'll rest. But the fire of my resolve burns bright within me. Our survival may depend on working together, but that doesn't mean I'll forget his betrayal anytime soon.
If someone had told me a month ago that I would be running for my life instead of sitting in the stuffy classroom of the bordello, preparing to be sold off to indoor, I would have laughed.
The forest is not your safe space, little one.
But there's no avoiding my fate.
It's you. You're the one.
I've spent my entire life training to be the perfect bride for the top-bidding dark elf. So much can change in so little time.
You understand why you're being punished, right, child?
Your blood. It sings to me.
Please, let me out of here.
You need to learn your place.
Well, what are you? Where are you taking me?
Run!
I'm a bringer of death.
No, you're not dying. I won't let you.
You won't be able to get out.
Let me go, please.
Sadie, I will make you mine.
Chapter 24. Savannah. Steel glints in the moonlight as we navigate the outskirts of town. The scent of damp earth mingles with the distant salt of the sea, and my heart thuds against my ribs. Suddenly, we all hear a cacophony of noise up ahead. Lyle pauses, his broad back tense, before he gestures for us to halt. "Stay back. Let me walk ahead and get eyes on this," he says as he stares longingly at Elysia. "Be careful," she replies, nervousness etched in her voice. We stand there anxiously waiting for Lyle to return and let us know what we're about to take on. Minutes seem like hours until Lyle approaches from the bush, weapon drawn. "Orc raiders," he mutters, voice barely a whisper. My breath catches. Elysia's eyes narrow as she peers through the gloom. "How many?" "At least a dozen," Lyle replies, muscles coiled like a predator ready to strike. Mara, ever the survivalist, crouches low beside me. "They're rounding up humans," she says. Her voice carries a blend of disgust and urgency. "We can't let them take anyone." I nod, adrenaline spiking through my veins. The memory of Julius, weak and fading, propels me forward. We can't afford another delay. Elysia pulls a dagger from her belt, the blade wickedly sharp. "What's the plan?" "We create a diversion," Lyle says, his deep voice calm despite the tension crackling in the air. "Savannah and I will draw their attention. Elysia, Mara, you flank them and free the captives." "Sounds like a plan," Mara agrees, her grey eyes glinting with resolve. Lyle's hand rests on my shoulder, grounding me in the moment. "Ready?" "Always," I reply, forcing steadiness into my voice. With a nod, we spring into action. Lyle barrels forward with a roar that echoes through the night, his sword swinging wide. I follow close behind, hands crackling with barely contained magic. The orcs turn at our approach, their eyes gleaming with malice. Chaos erupts around us as Elysia and Mara move like shadows among the captives, slicing bonds and whispering reassurances. Elysia darts through the melee with the grace of a dancer, her daggers flashing as she ducks and weaves between orc attacks. One orc swings a crude axe at her, but she sidesteps with ease, the blade whistling past her ear. She retaliates with a quick slash to his side, and he crumples with a pained roar. Lyle's approach is far less subtle, but no less effective. He charges into the fray like a battering ram, his massive fists sending orcs sprawling with every swing. An orc charges at him, sword raised, but Lyle grabs him by the arm and hurls him into another attacker. The two collapse in a heap, groaning. Mara stands back slightly from the thick of the fight, her eyes narrowed in concentration. She mutters an incantation under her breath, and the air around us shimmers. The orcs closest to her suddenly clutch their heads, eyes unfocused and steps faltering. One stumbles into another, their confusion spreading through the ranks. "Keep them off balance," I shout to Mara, glancing back to ensure she's safe. She nods, a determined look on her face as she continues to weave her minor magic. Another orc barrels toward her, but Elysia intercepts him with a swift kick to the knee, followed by a precise stab to his shoulder. He howls in pain and falls to his knees. Lyle roars again, this time swinging a heavy club he must have picked up from one of the fallen orcs. He brings it down on an attacker's head with a sickening crunch. The orc drops like a stone. I can feel my magic bubbling just below the surface, ready to lash out if needed. But for now, I hold it in check, trusting my companion's skills and strength. We move as one unit, each of us playing our part in this chaotic dance of battle. An orc breaks through our line and makes a grab for one of the captives. My heart leaps into my throat as I raise my hand instinctively. "Not today," I mutter, before releasing a controlled burst of energy that sends him flying backward. The orc lunges at me, and fear spikes through my veins. My vision blurs, and suddenly, I'm not just in one place. I see myself to the left, then to the right, my own form flickering like a mirage. What the? The orc's confusion mirrors my own as he swings wildly at empty air. I feel a pull deep in my gut, like a rubber band stretched to its limit. My consciousness snaps back, and I reappear behind him. He whips around too slow, bewildered eyes searching for a target that's already gone. Another orc charges at me, his face twisted in rage. Instinct takes over, and I split again. This time I feel the magic more acutely, like a wave crashing over me. Two of me move in tandem, one ducking low while the other strikes high. The orc's blade swishes through empty space as both versions of me dodge his attack. What kind of sorcery is this? He growls, eyes darting between my shifting forms. I don't answer, mostly because I have no idea myself. Instead, I use the confusion to my advantage. Both versions of me surge forward, converging on him from different angles. The moment his guard drops, I disappear and reappear behind him once more. With a quick burst of energy from my hands, I send him sprawling to the ground. "Savannah!" Lyle's voice booms through the chaos. "Keep moving!" I nod, or at least one of me does, and continue weaving through the battlefield. The flickering effect leaves a trail of bewildered orcs in my wake. They swing at shadows and yell curses into the night air. My magic pulses with each heartbeat, unpredictable and wild. Another orc charges at Mara, but before he can reach her, I split again. One version of me shoves him aside while the other helps Mara up. "Thanks," she breathes out, her eyes wide with amazement. "Don't mention it," both of me say in unison before merging back into one. Elysia catches sight of my maneuver and grins wickedly as she takes down another foe with swift precision. We are turning the tide, using every trick we have to outwit these brutes. The flux of power exhausts me, my vision blurring with each burst of magic. My knees buckle, and I barely catch myself from falling. Every teleportation, every duplication, feels like a hammer striking my skull. "Savannah!" Mara's voice cuts through the haze. She grabs my arm, steadying me. "You need to stop." I can't," I gasp, trying to focus. The battlefield swirls around me in a dizzying blur of motion and sound. "You're overdoing it," Elysia shouts, slashing at an orc who gets too close. "We can't afford to lose you now." But it's too late. My body feels like it's made of lead, every muscle screaming in protest. I try to summon another burst of energy, but nothing comes. The magic slips through my fingers like water. Lyle's voice booms from somewhere nearby. "Grab her, I'll finish this!" Elysia and Mara pull me to my feet, half dragging me away from the chaos. My head lolls as if it's no longer attached to my neck, and darkness edges into my vision. The sounds of battle fade into a dull roar as we retreat to find a safer location, the orcs' shouts growing fainter behind us. Lyle fends off the remaining attackers with desperate ferocity. "Just hold on," Mara urges, her grip firm on my arm. I nod weakly, but it's all I can manage. The ground rushes up to meet me as I collapse, my body finally giving out under the strain. I wake up to the sound of hushed voices and the scent of wood smoke. My head throbs, and my body feels like it's been through a meat grinder. Blinking against the early morning light, I sit up slowly, wincing at the stiffness in my muscles. Elysia notices first. "She's awake," she says, nudging Mara with her elbow. Lyle, sitting across from me by the fire, gives a small nod. "How are you feeling?" he asks, his tone gruff but concerned. "Like I got trampled by a group of pissed-off orcs," I reply, rubbing my temples. "What happened?" "You overdid it with your magic," Elysia explains, her eyes narrowing slightly as she studies me. "And quite frankly, I'm impressed. Didn't know you had it in you." Mara shoots Elysia a look before turning to me. "I knew it. I was just waiting to see how long it took you to crack." I frown, trying to recall the events of the previous night. Flashes of the battle come back, splitting into multiple forms, teleporting behind enemies, but it all feels like a fever dream. I don't understand it myself, I admit. The magic just took over. Lyle scratches his chin thoughtfully. It's clear you've got some serious power, but you need to learn how to control it. Elysia nods in agreement. We can't afford any more surprises like that, not when we're all depending on each other. Despite their words of caution, there's an undercurrent of respect in their gazes that wasn't there before. They see me as more than just a liability now. Mara remains quiet for a moment before speaking up. I've seen magic like yours before, she says softly, her grey eyes meeting mine. It's rare and unpredictable, but not impossible to manage. Her calm acceptance surprises me. Unlike the others, Mara doesn't seem shocked or wary, just curious. Do you think you can help me? I ask, my voice tinged with desperation. She nods slowly. I can try. But it won't be easy. You'll need to be patient with yourself. Lyle stands and stretches his muscular frame. Well, whether it's easy or not, we don't have much choice. He looks at each of us in turn. We need to keep moving if we're going to stay ahead of any pursuers. Elysia claps her hands together decisively. All right then, let's pack up and get going.
Chapter 25. Julius. Rasdin and I trudge through the narrow, damp tunnel, our footsteps echoing off the slick stone walls. The air feels thick and suffocating, filled with the scent of wet earth and something else, something metallic. Every so often, Rasdin glances back at me, his green eyes flickering with concern, or maybe something more sinister. Are you sure this is the right way? I ask, my voice rough from disuse and the gnawing pain in my chest. I think it's the best way from what I could gather, Rasdin replies without turning around. And what have you gathered? You haven't exactly been forthcoming with details, I snap. My patience wears thin, and his vague answers do nothing to ease my frustration. Rasdin halts and turns to face me. You need to trust me if we're going to get out of here alive. Trust you? After you betrayed us? My voice rises, bouncing off the tunnel walls. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't roast you alive right now. You can't, Rasdin says quietly. And you know it. His words sting more than I'd like to admit. I clench my fists, feeling the weak sputter of magic fizzle out before it even reaches my fingertips. Just keep moving, I growl, pushing past him. The tunnel seems endless, each step more laborious than the last. My legs feel like they're made of lead, and every breath burns my lungs. Rasdin's presence behind me feels like a constant reminder of my failure, both as a mate and as a fire wielder. Julius! Rasdin calls out from behind me. What? I bark without stopping. I never meant for things to go this way, he says softly. I pause but don't turn around. Intentions don't change what happened, I say through gritted teeth. Savannah's out there somewhere because of you. And I'm trying to help you find her, Rasdin replies, his voice steady but tinged with regret. I finally turn to face him. Why? Why should I believe anything you say? Rasdin meets my gaze without flinching. Because I owe you that much. We stare at each other in tense silence before I nod curtly and continue walking. The cavern widens, revealing more of those eerie glowing crystals. Their dim light flickers, casting ghostly shadows on the walls. I push forward, my limbs heavy and each breath labored. Rasdin's footsteps trail behind me, a constant reminder of his betrayal. Julius, Rasdin says again, his tone softer this time. I ignore him, focusing on the path ahead, but he grabs my arm, forcing me to stop and face him. What now? I snap, shaking off his grip. I need to tell you something, Rasdin says, his eyes not meeting mine. Spit it out, I demand. I've got no time for your games. My magic, it's failing too, he admits, voice barely above a whisper. I stare at him, shock momentarily silencing my anger. What do you mean? Razdan sighs, rubbing a hand over his scarred face. Since I woke up here, I could feel it escaping me. It's like something in these tunnels is sucking it away. He shook his head. At first it was fine, and I do still have some use. But it's not where it was. My anger surges. Then how are we going to get out of here? Savannah is out there. She's probably with those minotaurs because of you. To help you, he cuts in, turning to face. I can see the anger building in his face. Good. I want the fight. You could have helped me without putting her at risk. I already told you, he roars. I had to have a way to get back to Milthar for both of you. I open my mouth to argue, stepping forward. And then I sway. He jumps forward, catching me, and it's enough to sober us. My strength is still not there, and we both know it. He huffs. I didn't want to hurt either of you. In fact, his eyes meet mine, and I can see the earnestness in them. I was never going to let them take Savannah. I had a plan. His words hang in the air between us. The anger in my chest simmers down into a burning frustration. So now what? We're stuck here with no magic and no way out? There's still hope, Razdan insists. That artifact in Milthar... If it even exists, I interrupt. It does, he says firmly, and it can restore our magic. Silence stretches between us again as I weigh his words. Every instinct screams not to trust him, but what choice do we have? I swallow, only nodding. I'm not sure I want to push it right now. My energy isn't there, and while I want to trust him, I don't fully. I'm not sure where Savannah is, and I don't know if this artifact is real. I'm not going to thank you, I finally mutter. I can't fully let go of my anger. Razdan meets my gaze, unflinching. No, I don't expect thanks, but I need you to understand I didn't do this out of malice. Malice or not, I growl. Your actions almost got us killed. But they didn't, Razdan counters, and now we have a chance to fix this. Together. I stare at him, the weight of his words sinking in despite my anger. He's right about one thing. We need each other now more than ever. Fine, I mutter through gritted teeth. But this doesn't mean I trust you. Razdan nods solemnly. I don't expect you to. We stand there in tense silence, the faint glow of the crystals casting eerie shadows around us. My heart pounds with a mix of anger and reluctant acceptance. If this supposed artifact is real, I finally say, breaking the silence, then let's go. Razdan leads the way, his hulking frame casting an imposing shadow on the cavern walls. My mind races, replaying his words over and over. My skepticism runs deep, gnawing at my insides like a hungry beast. I can't seem to keep my mouth shut. Why now, Razdan? I ask, my voice echoing in the confined space. Why tell me all this now? Because you need to know, he replies without looking back. If we're going to survive, you need to understand what's at stake. Survive, I scoff. You think we have a chance down here? In this labyrinth of death? He stops and turns to face me, his green eyes meeting mine with an intensity that makes me shiver. I believe we do, but only if we work together. And what happens if we don't find this artifact? I press, stepping closer. What then? We die down here like rodents in a trap? Razdan's jaw tightens, his eyes flickering with something I can't quite place. Fear, maybe. Then we find another way. Another way? I laugh bitterly. You're full of empty promises. Believe what you want, he says, his voice steady but strained. But I'm not giving up. The tension between us feels like a live wire, ready to snap at any moment. My distrust of Razdan mingles with the ever-present fear that we're running out of time. Silence stretches between us, heavy and suffocating. The dim light from the crystals casts eerie shadows on Razdin's scarred face, making him look even more formidable. "If this is another one of your tricks," I warn him, my fists clenching at my sides, "I won't hesitate to end you." "I understand," he replies quietly. "But we both know I probably wouldn't stand a chance in my current state." We continue forward in uneasy silence, each step taking us deeper into the unknown. The air grows colder, more oppressive. Every sound seems amplified. The drip of water from stalactites, the distant rumble of shifting earth. Doubt gnaws at me with every step. What if Razdin is leading me into another trap? What if this so-called artifact is nothing but a myth? My thoughts spiral into dark territory as we press on. But for now, it's all we've got. We trudge forward into the abyss, uncertainty weighing heavy on our shoulders. "Rosenfire, our family holds great weight and power in Orthani, and yet I hear whispers.
Do you think he can take him?
There is no way that this could happen."
No, more books. I can't remain locked in this ivory tower a moment longer.
She's perfect. The Baron's daughter must be found.
Julius, we shouldn't.
Why shouldn't we?
I am not a full dark elf. I do not possess their ethereal beauty. How will I find a mate?
The lowly Baron's son apparently has shown that he has the same gift of fire-wielding as I, if not stronger.
I am the family's dirty little secret. I am not the future of the family. Dukan is.
This world was created from a seed of evil.
I propose we take Dukan out of the picture, permanently.
Please, let me go.
If you want to join the poor humans who are bought and sold in the markets on a daily basis, you will find a way to get there.
I am free, and I am terrified.
You will never escape me.
I can try.
You will fail. Get seasons 1 and 2 of the Dark Elf series from worldsofprothika.com.
Prothika's magic is eternal. This series will show you why. Chapter 26. Savannah. The fire crackles, casting flickering shadows on Mara's face. Her grey eyes gleam as she finishes recounting her escape from an ogre's lair. And then, with nothing but a hairpin and sheer will, I unlocked the chains, Mara concludes, smirking. That's incredible, I say, leaning closer. I would have panicked. Trust me, there was plenty of that, she admits. But panic doesn't get you far. I laugh, shaking my head. I suppose not. I've always been, well, sheltered. Mara's eyes soften. You're out here now. That takes courage. Silence falls between us, the fire our only witness. You know, I begin hesitantly, I never really had friends growing up, just my brother and the servants. Mara raises an eyebrow. Servants? You must have lived in some fancy place. I nod. A baron's estate. He raised me after my parents passed. That explains the manners, Mara teases gently. And your rough edges, I counter with a grin. She laughs, the sound bright in the night air. Touché. As we share more stories, her life on the run, my sheltered upbringing, we find common ground in unexpected places. Your magic, Mara says quietly after a while. It's strong and unpredictable. I glance at my hands, still stained with dirt from our last skirmish. It scares me sometimes. It should, she says bluntly. Magic isn't something to take lightly. I know. My voice drops to a whisper. But it's part of me now. And you'll learn to control it, she asserts with confidence that I don't quite feel. I look up at her, finding solace in her steady gaze. For all her roughness, Mara exudes a sense of calm and strength. "Thank you," I murmur. "For what?" "For not judging me," I reply softly. She shrugs. "We all have our burdens." The night deepens around us, stars winking into existence above. "Tell me about your family," Mara says suddenly. My heart tightens at the thought of Julius and home. But I push past the pain, focusing on the warmth of this newfound friendship. "All right," I say, smiling despite myself. "Let me tell you about Julius." Mara's keen eyes never leave me as I recount stories of Julius. It's like she sees beyond my words, sensing the turmoil I keep buried. "You really care for him," Mara says, her voice gentle yet probing. "More than anything," I admit, the firelight dancing in my eyes. "But things have been difficult lately." "Magic can do that," she replies, almost offhandedly. I look up sharply. "What do you mean?" She leans back, studying me. "Your magic, Savannah. It's powerful and unpredictable. That kind of strength doesn't come without struggle." I swallow hard, feeling exposed under her scrutiny. "How do you know?" "I've seen it before," she says simply. "And I see it in you." Silence stretches between us, heavy with unspoken truths. My hands tremble slightly, betraying my inner conflict. "Mara," I begin hesitantly. "I don't know how to control it. Sometimes it just happens." She nods, her expression understanding. "Magic has a will of its own. But so do you." "That's easy for you to say," I mutter, frustration seeping into my voice. "Not really," she counters. "Like I said, I've seen it before. You will get through this." Her words hang in the air, a lifeline in the storm of my uncertainty. "What do I do?" "You start by accepting it," she says firmly. "Your magic is part of you now. Denying it only makes things worse." I look down at my hands again, feeling the weight of her words. "And then you learn to listen to it," she advises. "Magic isn't just power, it's a conversation." "A conversation?" I echo, incredulous. She smiles faintly. "Yes, it tells you things if you're willing to listen." Her calm assurance soothes some of my fears, but doubt lingers like a shadow. "And what if I can't control it?" My voice is barely above a whisper. "Then we'll figure it out together," Mara promises, her gaze steady and unwavering. I hesitate, unsure how to voice the inner turmoil based on fear. I take a deep breath, staring into the fire. "Mara, I'm terrified." She tilts her head, eyes narrowing. "Of what?" "Of hurting someone," I confess, my voice trembling. "The magic, it's so strong. Sometimes it feels like it has a mind of its own. What if I lose control? What if someone gets hurt because of me?" Mara nods, her expression thoughtful. "Magic can be dangerous, yes, but fear can make it worse." "I know," I whisper, clutching my knees to my chest. "But I don't know how to stop it. It just happens." "It's not about stopping it," Mara says gently. "It's about understanding it, learning to channel it." "But how?" I ask, frustration edging into my voice. "I've tried everything I can think of. Nothing works." "Patience," she replies calmly. "And practice. You won't master it overnight." I sigh, feeling the weight of her words, but also the enormity of the task ahead. It just feels so hopeless sometimes. "Nothing worth having comes easy," Mara says, her tone firm yet kind. "You have a gift, Savannah. It's a part of you now, and you need to embrace that." What if embracing it means hurting those I care about? My voice cracks, the fear and desperation spilling over. Then you'll learn from those mistakes, she says softly, and you'll get better. I look at her, seeing the wisdom in her eyes and feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the fear. Thank you, I say again, this time with more conviction. Mara nods, a small smile playing on her lips. We'll figure this out together. A few days later, the inn's common room hums with early risers and clinking cutlery. Mara and I sit at a wooden table near the hearth, the smell of freshly baked bread mingling with the aroma of herbal tea. Alicia and Lyle pass by us, Alicia's black hair gleaming in the morning light. She nods at me, a brief smile playing on her lips. Heading out to scout, Lyle says in his deep voice. We'll be back by midday. Be careful, Mara calls after them, her tone light but eyes serious. As they leave, I turn back to Mara, feeling a mix of gratitude and nervous energy. She tears a piece of bread and dips it into her tea before speaking. You know, she begins, herbs can do wonders for managing magic. Really? I ask, genuinely curious. How so? She leans in, her voice lowering as if sharing a secret. Certain herbs can help stabilize your magic, making it easier to control. I raise an eyebrow. Like what? For instance, she says, Goligan oil is known for its calming properties. It can help soothe your mind and, in turn, your magic. I take a bite of my own bread, mulling over her words. Where do you find these herbs? Mostly in the wild, Mara replies with a shrug, but some markets carry them too. She reaches into her satchel and pulls out a small pouch. Opening it, she reveals dried leaves and roots. This is Waroya, she explains. It helps with clarity of thought and focus. I pick up a piece, feeling its rough texture between my fingers. How do you use it? You can brew it into tea or burn it like incense, she answers. The important thing is to find what works best for you. I nod, absorbing her advice like a sponge. What else? I ask. As she talks, I feel a strange sense of calm washing over me. Mara's knowledge and confidence in these herbs make me believe that maybe, just maybe, I can control my magic. When Alicia and Lyle return, we pack up our things and head out onto the road again, the morning sun casting long shadows ahead of us. Mara walks beside me, her steps light despite the heavy pack on her back. Ever think about what you'd do if you weren't on the run? I ask, trying to imagine a different life for her. She laughs softly. All the time, but it's hard to picture now. Survival kind of becomes everything. I glance at her, curiosity piqued. What did you want to be? Honestly? A healer, she admits, surprising me with her candour. Before everything went sideways, I trained with an herbalist. I smile at the thought. You would have been great at it. Mara shrugs, but looks pleased. Maybe one day, if things ever calm down. As we walk, we fall into a comfortable rhythm of conversation and silence. I find myself opening up to Mara in ways I hadn't expected, sharing my fears about my magic, my hopes for finding Julius. She listens without judgment, offering practical advice and snippets of wisdom from her own experiences. When we stop for lunch by a bubbling brook, Mara hands me a small vial of oil. Goligan oil, she says simply. I uncork it and take a cautious sniff, the scent calming me almost instantly. Thank you, I say earnestly. The bond between us solidifies with each passing day, trust forged in shared stories and mutual support. As we continue our journey through rugged landscapes and bustling towns, I realise that despite the uncertainty ahead, I'm not facing it alone. Mara's presence is a constant reminder that even in the darkest times, friendship and trust can light the way forward.
Chapter 27. Julius. My feet drag through the damp tunnel, every step a reminder of my weakened state. Rastin stays close, his hulking form, a shadow against the flickering torchlight. I stop, leaning against the cold stone wall to catch my breath. "You need to rest," Rastin says, his voice low but firm. "I'm fine," I snap back, though the pounding in my head says otherwise. He raises an eyebrow but doesn't push. Instead, he mutters an incantation under his breath, green sparks dancing around his hands. The sight would have been impressive if it weren't for the fact that it accomplishes nothing. My body remains as broken as before. "Damn it, Rastin," I hiss, shoving away from the wall. "Is this all your magic can do now? Pathetic." Rastin's green eyes flash with irritation, but he swallows whatever retort he has. "I'm trying," he says evenly. "Your condition is more complex than I anticipated." "Complex?" I laugh bitterly, feeling the reverberation in my aching skull. "You think this is complex? Try being on this side of it." He stays silent, and we continue our slow pace through the labyrinthine tunnels. Every few minutes, my legs threaten to give out, forcing us to stop again. The pauses grate on my nerves, each one a testament to how far I've fallen. "Lean on me if you must," Rastin offers during one of our many stops. "I don't need your help," I snarl back, though my vision swims from exhaustion. Rastin's face hardens, and for a moment, I think he might argue. Instead, he steps back and lets me struggle forward on my own. We press on in silence until I finally collapse onto a rough-hewn bench in an alcove. Sweat beads on my forehead, and every breath feels like fire in my lungs. Rastin stands nearby, arms crossed and eyes narrowed in thought. "This isn't sustainable," he says at last. "No kidding," I mutter. "We need to find that artifact soon," he says matter-of-factly. "And whose fault is it we're even down here?" I shoot back with a scowl. Rastin looks away, guilt flashing across his features. Good. He should feel guilty. He's the one who put us in this mess. "I'll figure something out," Rastin finally says. "You better." My voice is barely above a whisper now, fatigue sapping my strength. He nods and begins another spell, more determined than ever to fix what he's broken. But determination means nothing without results. And so far, all he's given me are empty promises and fleeting sparks of magic. "Let's move," I say through gritted teeth, trudging forward with as much quickness as I can muster. If his magic isn't capable of my complex situation, sitting here waiting is just wasting time. Time that could be spent searching for Savannah. If we ever get out of these damn tunnels. We continue on, the air thick with dampness and the distant echo of dripping water. Rastin's presence grates on me, every footfall a reminder of how much I despise relying on him. We continue in silence for a while, my mind churning with distrust and frustration. Every time Rastin speaks or makes a decision, my gut twists with suspicion. I grit my teeth, frustration boiling just beneath the surface. His calm demeanor only adds fuel to the fire. The worst part is that he's right. I'm too weak to do this alone. The thought of relying on him gnaws at my pride, each twist of the knife a reminder of my current helplessness. My fists clench involuntarily, and I have to force myself to take a deep breath. This isn't the time for ego. Savannah's life hangs in the balance. "And what's in it for you?" I ask. "Why go through all this trouble?" Rastin hesitates before answering. "Redemption." I snort in disbelief. "Redemption? For what?" "For everything," he says quietly, and there's a flicker of something in his eyes. Regret? Pain? It's hard to tell. But I can't afford to care about his redemption arc right now. All that matters is finding Savannah and fixing this mess. "Just remember," I warn him, my voice low and dangerous. "The moment you give me a reason to doubt you again, you're done." We continue in silence, each step taking us deeper into the unknown and further from Savannah. My legs tremble with each step, but I force myself to keep going. The walls of the tunnel seem to close in around us, the damp air pressing down on my chest. Rastin's heavy footfalls echo in the narrow tunnel, a constant reminder of his presence. I force myself to match his pace, though every step feels like dragging a mountain. "Look," Rastin says, breaking the silence. "We have no choice but to work together. Whether you believe me or not, our survival depends on it." I glare at him. "And why should I believe anything you say? You already betrayed us once." "Because if we don't," Rastin replies evenly, "we'll both die down here. And Savannah, she needs you." His words hit me harder than I care to admit. Savannah. The thought of her alone and in danger twists my gut. "So what, we just forget what happened?" My voice drips with sarcasm. "No," Rastin says, his tone still surprisingly calm. "But we have to move forward. Together." I stop walking and turn to face him. "Give me one reason why I should trust you now." "I've already told you. You don't have to trust me," he says, meeting my gaze with those unyielding green eyes. "But you do need my help, and that's more than enough reason to work together." He's right, again. Every fiber of my being rebels against it. But the truth is glaringly obvious. Alone, I'm weak and vulnerable. With Rastin, maybe we stand a chance. As we navigate the twisting tunnels, I can't help but think about how far we've come, and how much further we have to go. My mind drifts to Savannah, her smile, her strength. The thought of failing her is unbearable. "So," I say after a while, breaking the silence again, "we get out of here and what? Just show up in Miltar?" Rastin glances at me before answering. "We reach Miltar. Find the artifact. Restore your magic." "And then what?" I press, my voice edged with impatience. "And then we find Savannah," he says simply, his tone carrying an unspoken promise. I can see the determination in his green eyes, a reflection of my own resolve. Savannah's face flashes in my mind, her gentle smile and fiery hair a beacon that drives me forward. Every moment counts, and failure is not an option. It's not much of a plan, but it's something to hold on to, a glimmer of hope in this dark place. "All right," I say with a reluctant nod. "Let's do this. For now, it's enough to keep moving forward, together." In a world of elves, demons, and liches.
What would you choose?
Power?
Or passion?
Do you stab the monster in the back?
Or take him to bed?
The Immersive Fantasy audiobook bundle has it all.
Go to worldsofprathika.com to get access.
Use code YouTube30 to get an additional 30% off.
Prathika's magic is eternal. Audio bundles will make it immersive. Chapter 28. Savannah. The sun dips below the horizon, casting long shadows as we tread through the dense forest. Mara and Lyle flank me, their steps cautious but steady. Elysia's hand brushes against mine, a fleeting touch that anchors me to the present. Suddenly, a rustle breaks the silence. My heart pounds as dark figures emerge from the underbrush. Dark elves, their violet eyes gleaming with malice. Mara draws her weapon, a low growl escaping her lips. "Defensive stance," she hisses. "Now!" We form a tight circle, backs to each other. Lyle's broad shoulders tense as he grips his club, eyes scanning our attackers. "Didn't think they'd catch up this soon," Elysia mutters, daggers at the ready. A dark elf steps forward, his robe flowing like liquid night. "Hand over the girl," he demands, pointing at me, "and we'll let you live." "Not a chance," Lyle growls back. The dark elf smirks. "Then you all die." With a flick of his wrist, a bolt of magic hurtles toward us. I instinctively raise my hands, willing myself to teleport, but only manage to shimmer in place. "Damn it!" I curse under my breath. Elysia deflects another bolt with her dagger while Mara's eyes glow faintly, minor magic crackling at her fingertips. "Stay focused," Mara snaps. "Savannah, we need you." I nod, trying to steady my breathing, Another dark elf lunges at Lyle. He swings his club with a grunt, knocking the attacker back into the trees. "We're outnumbered," Elysia pants, slicing through another elf's arm. "Got any bright ideas?" My mind races. I glance around. Thick trees on one side, a sheer drop on the other. We're trapped. "We have to push through them," I say, voice shaking but firm. "No other way." Mara nods in agreement. "Lyle and I will clear a path. Elysia and Savannah, cover our backs." With a unified cry, we surge forward. Lyle's club swings in wide arcs while Mara's minor magic creates brief distractions. I focus on keeping my friends safe, conjuring small bursts of energy to deflect attacks. A dark elf seizes Elysia's wrist. She wrenches free and drives her dagger into his side. He falls with a choked cry. "Almost there!" Lyle bellows. Just as hope begins to rise, an elf's blade cuts into my arm. Pain ignites, searing hot, but I bite down and push forward. "We can't stop now," Mara shouts above the pandemonium. Fueled by sheer willpower and determination, we forge ahead, each step inching us closer to escape, or so I desperately hope. The fight is chaotic, a whirlwind of flashing steel and crackling magic. Lyle barrels through the dark elves like a force of nature, his club smashing into them with bone-crunching force. Elysia dances around the battlefield, her daggers finding gaps in the elves' defences with deadly precision. But as the pressure mounts, I feel my control slipping. My breath comes in ragged gasps, and the world seems to blur around me. I raise my hands, intending to teleport behind an approaching elf, but instead, the air around me shimmers and distorts. "No!" I scream, trying to focus. But it's too late. A burst of energy erupts from my hands, sending ripples through the air. The dark elf lunging at me stumbles back, disoriented. I glance at my friends. Lyle looks over his shoulder with a mix of concern and awe, while Elysia's eyes widen in shock. "Get it together, Savannah," I mutter to myself. But then another wave of energy surges from within me, and I can't stop it. The dark elves nearest to me freeze in place, their eyes glazing over as if caught in some trance. One of them drops his sword and clutches his head, a pained expression twisting his features. "What's happening?" Mara shouts over the din. I don't know." My voice trembles with panic. Elysia deflects another attack and darts towards me. "Just focus on staying with us," she urges. I nod weakly, but the magic inside me continues to spiral out of control. Another dark elf lunges at Lyle from behind, but before he can strike, he crumples to the ground as if his strings have been cut. My energy pulses again, affecting friend and foe alike. The battlefield becomes a disjointed mess of warped space and minds unravelling under my influence. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between control and chaos. "Push through!" Lyle roars, his voice grounding me for a moment. I try to centre myself amidst the turmoil. We need to keep moving, need to escape this nightmare. But as another wave bursts from me, I fear we might not make it out unscathed. The uncontrolled magic creates a dangerous situation, knocking multiple dark elves unconscious, but also affecting my allies and the environment. The air around me crackles with raw energy, the sheer force of it pushing me to my knees. I clutch my head, trying to contain the chaos within. The dark elves scream as the energy waves ripple out, their bodies crumpling to the ground like discarded dolls. "Watch out!" Lyle shouts, but his voice sounds distant, distorted by the magical maelstrom. I glance up and see him staggering, a look of pain etched on his face. Elysia stumbles back, her daggers slipping from her hands as she struggles to stay upright. Even Mara, usually so composed, looks shaken as she braces herself against a tree. "No, I didn't mean to." My words are lost in the cacophony of magic and screams. The ground beneath us quakes, fissures snaking through the earth as trees sway dangerously. Leaves and debris swirl in a vortex around me, pulled into the chaos of my uncontrolled power. I see Alicia's lips moving, but I can't hear her over the roar of magic. I force myself to stand, legs trembling like reeds in a storm. I have to stop this. I have to regain control before someone gets seriously hurt. But how? The magic feels like a living thing inside me, wild and untamed. Focus, I whisper to myself, trying to center my thoughts amidst the turmoil. Another wave of energy bursts forth, and more dark elves collapse. One falls into a fissure that suddenly opens beneath him. The sight sends a jolt of terror through me. What if that had been one of my friends? Mara's eyes lock onto mine. "Savannah!" she yells, her voice cutting through the noise like a knife. "You have to control it." I nod frantically, but it's easier said than done. The magic surges again, more powerful than before. I see Lyle fall to one knee, his face contorted in pain. Alicia grips her head as if trying to keep it from splitting apart. "No," I murmur. "No more." Summoning every ounce of willpower, I close my eyes and reach deep within myself, searching for some semblance of control. The magic pulses violently, resisting my efforts. But I can't give up, not when my friends' lives are at stake. With a final burst of determination, I manage to contain the energy just enough to stop it from spiraling further out of control. The air around us stills, and the ground stops shaking. The dark elves lie unconscious or dead, scattered like fallen leaves. Breathing heavily, I look around at my friends. They're battered but alive, a small mercy in this nightmare I've created. The air still crackles with residual magic as I struggle to stand. My vision blurs, the forest around me swimming in and out of focus. Each breath feels like dragging in shards of glass. "I'm so sorry," I whisper hoarsely, but the words barely escape my lips. My body rebels against me as another wave of fatigue crashes over me. The edges of my vision darken, narrowing to a tunnel. I feel myself sway, unable to keep balance. "She's collapsing!" Alicia shouts, catching me just before I hit the ground. The world tilts and spins. I feel their hands on me, Lyle's strong and steady, Mara's soft but insistent. My ears ring with their voices, growing fainter by the second. "She's not responding." Alicia's voice is panicked now. Mara's face swims into view above me, her eyes wide with fear. "Savannah, stay with us!" I try to speak, to reassure them somehow, but no sound comes out. My mouth feels heavy and uncooperative. "We need to do something." Lyle's voice breaks through the fog. She's fading fast. As the darkness closes in around me, Mara's voice is the last thing I hear, desperate and filled with dread. "She's dying. We have to help her now." And then there is nothing but blackness. From the depths of the darkness of Protheka,
Or clawing up from the realms of fantasy.
come the most fearsome beasts you have ever seen.
These monsters are done watching from the shadows.
Now, as they step into the light, something unexpected grips them.
Something even they can't fight off.
Love,
Vampires.
demons,
Dark elves.
gods.
Minotaurs. Creatures of light and dark.
They will protect their mates.
Do whatever needs to be done.
Morally grey heroes who will burn the world to protect the women who love them.
10 audiobooks.
Fall into over 60 hours of fantasy romance.
20 ebooks.
Over 1 million words of these brutes who will protect their women.
Even if they might destroy themselves in the process.
Get the immersive Protheka fantasy romance bundle.
For 80% off, right now, dive into Protheka at a once-in-a-lifetime discount.
The first bundle to offer both ebooks and audiobooks on worldsofprotheka.com. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this romantasy bundle will make it endless.